Greetings, YouTube. Yesterday marked the 800th anniversary of the Albigensian Crusades. These crusades were rather interesting because they were held on European soil. This was not Catholic knights going to the Middle East. This was Catholic knights and forces being directed at France by the Pope to hunt down the heretics known as Cathars. Now, you probably have never heard of Cathars, and there's a really good reason for this, because the Catholics did everything in their power to kill every single last one of them. What's interesting about this date is that the first city that was taken by the Catholic forces, it was surrounded, they put it under siege, they eventually broke their way in, and once the general in charge took the city, he didn't know what to do. He couldn't tell the Catholics apart from the Cathars, because they're both Christians. So he contacted the Pope and said, "What should I do? I can't tell them apart." And the Pope replied, Pope innocent, I should point out, the irony is sweet, and I quote what the Pope said, "Kill them all, God knows his own," which is where that famous line came from. Now, I had always had a dim view of the Catholic Church, and I started this when I was 5. But when I learned of the Cathars, and the sacking of that city, and that quote said by a pope, ordering innocent people murdered, for me, that was the epiphany when I realized that the Catholic Church was a morally bankrupt institution. And though they had done morally bankrupt things before then, and after then, for me, that is when they lost all authority on this earth. Which is interesting, because part of the Cathar belief system was that everything here in this world is of Satan. It is profane. And the greatest goal in our lives is to ascend to heaven, to become a purely spiritual being. And some of the Cathars took it to the extreme of starving themselves to death. Another reason that the Catholics didn't like the Cathars, now remember, everything in this world is considered profane. That means the Pope and all of the church elders are profane as well. That didn't go over well with the Pope. What also didn't go over well is they believed in sexual equality, so that there were church leaders of both genders. That didn't go over with the patriarchy that the church has either. They also believed in bestowing a lot of power to lay people. So if there were no priest, male or female, around, a lay Cathar could stand in their place. So overall, it was very much a different view of Christianity than the Catholics were putting forward. That's why they considered them a heresy. And that's why they hunted them down and wiped them off the face of the planet. I think it would have been interesting to see the Cathars develop over time and see how they would have taken Christianity into their own direction. What would it have become under the guise of a Cathar church? Because they were fairly widespread at one time. It took the Catholics quite a while to finally wipe them all out. But the world will never know what a Cathar church would have been like in the modern era, because the Catholics hunted them all down. Because the Catholics murdered innocent people at the order of the Pope. So you can see, I take a rather dim view of the Catholic Church.